My name is Avedis Paul Bogosian, but I go by Paul Bogosian because my first name is too difficult to say for some people. I am 93 years of age, and I was a first lieutenant in the United States Air Force. In the Air Force, I was a navigator and radio operator at the time of World War II, which I was on board a B-29 bomber airplane. Our base was located on the island of Guam, in the Pacific. Even though I was not of the white ethnicity, I was still treated fairly, and I was treated as an equal to the other soldiers. And, as soldiers, we were all friends because we needed to stick together and work together, and in turn, we would survive. My crew consisted of 11 people, 5 officers, and 6 enlisted men. During the daily operations, there was not much to do. Most of the time, we would be performing maintenance checks on our plane to be positive that it was ready for battle. After returning from a mission, we would arrive at the base, then perform a number of more checks to be sure that the plane was in perfect condition. Being on the base, my crew and I, along with one other crew, lived in a Quonset hut. Officers were in one hut, enlisted in the other. After the first 7 missions, we received a star as a reward, and after 14 missions, we received another. However, these were not very prestigious or important, as we were just doing our job of flying. During the war, we flew over Japan and dropped bombs over many designated areas. War is terrible, and I feel that I have a guilty conscience for dropping these bombs on the Japanese people. It was very difficult for me to take on, but it was something we had to do, because if we did not do it to them, they would do it to us. During the bombing missions, there were numerous anti-aircraft guns that would fire at us. Fortunately, they were all very bad shots, and they very seldom hit our aircraft. There were also Japanese planes that would retaliate, but they feared the B-29 plane and were not very aggressive toward us. Our last mission was a return to Tokyo, where our first raid had failed. My crew and I were on our plane, Cue Ball, a B-29, flying solo to Tokyo to drop a load of bombs, approximately 4,500-pound incendiary bombs. The plane weighed in a grand total of 145,000 pounds when we were about to take off. During the flight to Iwo Jima, the bombardier and I discussed alternate targets that would not be as heavily fortified as Tokyo. But when the aircraft commander overheard us, he sternly instructed that we were to take action over Tokyo. Immediately after passing over Mount Fuji, we were interrupted by searchlights and Japanese aircraft batteries. Our bombing run was lit brighter than Christmas Tree Lane. We were the only plane in the sky, and every anti-aircraft gun was shooting in our direction, and the intercom started to buzz with a beehive of activity. We were nearing our target. A few seconds passed, and I continuously notified the bombardier of the target location and distance. The countdown started, and then I shouted, "Bombs away," but the bombardier did not respond. And after a few more attempts at making contact, he shortly responded with "bombs away." Cue Ball had dropped from a elevation of 1,300 feet or 13,000 feet at Mount Fuji to an area that was 4,500, which ended up being the target area. The searchlights went off, and the AA batteries became silent. We did not receive a single hit, and we thanked God for that. A few hours later, we landed in Iwo Jima on the base to check in. After landing, the crew and I alighted from Cue Ball, and the bombardier approached me and said, "At the first bombs away call, the area was a blazing inferno, so I held off and dropped the bombs on an area where the flames were not present. War is very unfortunate, but I believe it was necessary for it to take place. And I also believe that it made me into who I am today. This chapter of my life is very important to me. Avedis, Paul, Bogosian.